So this one is all about writing an executive summary. This is already the second part of my today's presentation because after completing a research project proposal, it is also a requirement that we prepare an executive summary. Before, my idea of the executive summary was it is prepared after completing a research project. But I was wrong because even in the preparation of a research project proposal, executive summary is a requirement. And what is this all about? An executive summary is an overview of a research report or other type of document that summarizes key points for its readers, saving them time and preparing them for the upcoming content. So the executive summary actually provides the readers a bird's eye view of the research project. It must be a separate, standalone document with sufficient content to ensure that the reader can completely understand the contents of the longer research study. So in other words, this is equivalent to the gist of the research project. Complete ideas should be presented here, though we avoid detailed presentation of ideas. An executive summary can be anywhere from 1 to 10 pages long, depending on the research report's length, and may summarize more than one document. So let's talk about the structure and writing style as regards the preparation of executive summary. The following are useful tips or suggestions. Number one, read the entire document. So there is a need for us to read the entire research project so that when we prepare the executive summary, every important point will be considered in writing the capsulized form. Then this may go without saying, but it is critically important that you read your entire research study thoroughly from start to finish before beginning to write the executive summary. The reason was already cited earlier. So this will better prepare you for how to organize and summarize the key points of your study. Remember, this is not a brief abstract of 300 words or less, but essentially a mini paper of your paper with a focus on recommendations. Additional pointers in writing an executive summary. Isolate the major points within the original document. So the major points within the original document should be isolated. Choose which parts of the document are the most important to those who will read it, because the ideas included in the executive summary should be appreciated in terms of degree of importance. This is especially or particularly crucial because sometimes there are organizations, institutions, or agencies whose policy is to trim down the executive summary. If we consider the presentation of ideas from the most important idea to the least important one, then we can easily trim down or shorten our executive summary. These points must be included within the executive summary in order to provide the thorough and complete explanation of what the document is trying to convey. Separate the main sources. Closely examine each section of the original document and discern the main differences in each. Then after you have a firm understanding about what each section offers in respect to the other sections, write a few sentences for each section describing the main ideas. Although the format may vary, the main section of the executive summary likely will include the following. So these are the elements of the executive summary. The opening statement, brief background information. So this one is still different from the introduction. Number two, second point, the purpose of research study. Third point, the method of data gathering and analysis. Simply mention them, do not discuss them in detail. Then the overview of the findings. This is very crucial for inclusion in the executive summary. Include only the general findings. Detailed findings should not be included in the executive summary. Then note that the recommendations are sometimes quoted verbatim from the research study. Combine the information. Use the information gathered to combine them into an executive summary that is no longer than 10% of the original document. Then be concise. The purpose is to provide a brief explanation of the entire document with a focus on the recommendations that have emerged from your research. How you word this will likely differ depending on your audience and what they care most about. If necessary, selectively incorporate bullet points for emphasis and brevity. Then these are another things that we need to do in finalizing the executive summary, because our aim is to have quality executive summary, and therefore there is a need for us to reread the executive summary for further refinement. After you have completed your executive summary, let it sit for a while before coming back to reread it. So concentration is needed so that you can thoroughly or carefully examine the written executive summary. Then check to make sure that the summary will make sense as a separate document from the full research study. By taking some time before rereading it, you allow yourself to see the summary with unbiased eyes. Now, there are common mistakes that we should avoid in writing an executive summary. One is about the length of the executive summary. As a general rule, the correct length of an executive summary is that it meets the criteria of no more pages than 10% of the number of pages in the original document with an upper limit of 10 pages. So this is a common mistake. Another, this requirement keeps the document short enough to be read by your audience, but long enough to allow it to be a complete standalone document. Another mistake, with the exemption of specific recommendations made in the study, do not simply cut and paste whole sections of the original document into the executive summary. So paraphrasing is needed, rewording is necessary. You should paraphrase information from the longer document. Avoid taking up space with excessive subtitles and lists unless they are absolutely necessary for the reader to have a complete understanding of the original document. Although unlikely to be required by the critic, there is the possibility that more than one executive summary will have to be written for a given document. This may only necessitate the rewriting of the conclusion, but it may require rewriting the entire summary in order to fit the needs of the reader. If necessary, be sure to consider the types of audience who may benefit from your study and make adjustments accordingly. Another point is the clarity in writing. There are also some mistakes as regards the clarity in writing. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is related to the clarity of your executive summary. Always note that your audience or audiences are like seeing your research study for the first time. Then the best way to avoid a disorganized or cluttered executive summary is to write it after the study is completed. Always follow the same strategies for proofreading that you would for any research paper. Then use of strong and positive language. During the discussion of the framing of research project title, I made mention of utilization of strong and positive languages. Don't weaken your executive summary with passive, imprecise language. The executive summary is a standalone document intended to convince the readers to make a decision concerning whether to implement the recommendations you make. Once convinced, it is assumed that the full document will provide the details needed to implement the recommendation. Use strong positive, again, use strong and positive language, although you should resist the temptation to pad your summary with please or biased statements. Do pay attention or particular attention to ensuring that a sense of urgency is created